Daniel Gouldman. If you can come over with me, please, on stage. Thank you very much.
Daniel Gouldman, New York, co-CEO de Unbanked. Alejandro Correa Bansen, Bogotá.
Daniel, first of all, welcome to Colombia. Thanks very much for coming here. Please have a seat.
Okay, hello.
So we did this interaction this morning with Deborah, who's also from New York. It worked perfectly. We had the QR. They're going to show the QR. Most of them, they already have the QR. And they have a live AI doing the translation. Okay. So I think we won't have much problem. We might have problem with my English, but yours is going to be absolutely perfect.
You're great. So actually I'm embarrassed because I'll try to talk slow. I am from Texas in the United States, and there's a proud culture of Latino culture, Spanish.
You're supposed to know, right?
I speak such poor Spanish, so I'm embarrassed, but I'm very happy to be here.
That's all right. We tested the crowd this morning. I was asking questions to see if they did understand, and they did, and they participated, and they have the live AI to get the translation. At least 80, I was checking around, 80-90% of it was pretty good. Daniel, thanks for being here. I'm going to be talking to you and you to me, but we're most of the time going to look at the camera so that we get a better screen in here for you. I'd love to know a bit more about you, understanding a little about your background, where you're coming from. Is it your first time here? Are you excited?
First time. I love it. It's amazing. The Colombian people are just very warm and welcoming, and feels wonderful.
So that's the first time in Colombia, first time in South America?
Yeah, the closest I've been is Panama.
Panama?
Yeah, Panama. I was in Barbados in October, Panama before. I'm going to Trinidad soon, and Colombia. So I do a lot of travel. We're going to roll out some things and do some business in Latin America.
Yes.
And so Colombia is a really exciting place to be.
All right. Yeah, that's actually a booming emerging market for everything tech, so I'm sure you guys are going to be successful. We'll talk about this in a bit. I'd like to know more about your background. Before being at Unbanked, and you are the co-CEO, right?
Correct.
So that's fun to understand those dynamics. But before that, how long you've been in Texas, and what happened from you to move from Texas to New York, or are you still in Texas?
No, I live in Atlanta now. So I'm from Texas
Atlanta,
originally.
true.
Yeah, I live in Atlanta. So the short of it is, for a long time, since I was very young, I worked for other people, big companies, and when you're young, you really have to learn a lot still about business and how to manage people or how to execute on initiatives. And for 20 years, I did that for businesses, for other people. And I continually got promoted, and I continually improved my skills. And I got to a point where I actually was able to go on my own and become an entrepreneur. And so I've been an entrepreneur now for a good 7 years. It's very hard to start your own business, for anyone who's done it. There's a little bit where you almost have to be completely loco.
Yes.
It's because you don't necessarily know if you're going to make any money. You're putting in all of the work. You're having to work very hard, but there's no guarantees that it'll work out. And you don't know if you're going down the right path. And Unbanked, as an example of that, when we started, we were called Turnio. It was a different name, even for the company. We had a different use case. We were using blockchain technology, but it wasn't what it is today. We had to iterate. We had to change our plan based upon the market, based on what's called product market fit. And so now we've been doing Unbanked for about 5 years.
Amazing. All right, that's pretty interesting. You mentioned Atlanta, so I'm curious about the scene there, the tech, entrepreneur, Web3, what's happening there. In my mind, Atlanta is not ranked as one of the usual tech hub, but I'm sure I'm wrong.
It's not what you think about, right? So what's great about Atlanta is there's actually quite a bit of it's a big city, first of all. It's not unlike a Bogota, where it attracts a lot of businesses and people, et cetera. it's a huge, it probably does two major things. One is it has a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are based there, so there's a lot of corporate positions. Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, which owns Arby's and Popeyes, Coca-Cola is based in Atlanta, right? So Delta Airlines, Atlanta. There's a lot of great big businesses that you probably are consumers of today, even in Colombia, that, you know, like I had a Coca-Cola at the local restaurant because it's Coca-Cola, right? That's Atlanta. But the second thing is Atlanta actually is a massive payments hub. So if anyone who doesn't understand payments, it's very complicated. You have banks and you have payment processors. The world's largest payment processor is Fiserv, which purchased First Data. First Data is based in Atlanta, and Fiserv is in Alpharetta, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. So it's like just a suburb. I live in Alpharetta. So in Alpharetta, anyone here heard of BitPay, for example?
BitPay, yeah.
BitPay does crypto payment processing. They're in Alpharetta. So there's a lot of tech actually, because especially for blockchain and Web3, because there's so much payments there in Atlanta, that it's a natural correlation that you'll see more and more crypto and Web3, because I think all payments business is going to kind of have to be interoperable. So there's a real good ecosystem.
Is the city making it easier? I mean, tax-wise maybe, or for, I'm going to say payment, crypto?
Yeah, they're not doing anything specific for the industry of crypto, but Georgia is a reasonably, the taxes are reasonable, right? If you were to go to New York, it's a little crazy. You know, the taxes are a little crazy. Some people might pay 45% in taxes in New York.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? And in New Jersey, Illinois, there's some states where they have very high tax rates. Georgia is not one of them. And so Georgia considers itself to be, like Texas, a very pro-business state that wants to attract businesses, and it works on trying to make sure it has low taxes.
That's pretty interesting. We've been in Miami doing a lot for the past 8-9 years, and then we moved to California, and all this conversation about California versus Florida. Yeah. I realized Georgia is part of this. They're attracting a lot of at least new kind of startups and businesses because of this. I think those factors that make it easy for an entrepreneur to get started there.
Well, California is historically done a great job attracting a lot of business, because California is a massive, massive economy. I mean, if California was a country, it would be like the 7th or 8th largest country, or a country GDP in the world. So for people who kind of speak poorly of California, they don't quite understand how much commerce comes from California. Wow. And it's a dynamic economy. But during COVID, some of the policies that they took were a little overboard. And in Florida, they took an approach that was different, that they said, look, we don't want to hurt tourism, we don't want to hurt businesses. I think there's probably got to be a middle ground, but Florida basically continued on as is. I actually went to Florida in the middle of COVID because I wanted a break, and we wanted to be at the beach, and I passed by in the middle of COVID, before vaccines, and I'm driving by a downtown beach in the middle of the day, and it was as if there was no thing, COVID didn't exist. People were just sitting on top of each other. They were just like packed. And that was Florida. That's Florida. So, but I think Miami is really great because it is the entry point to Latin America, as everyone knows. That it's got a very special. And like you can go to Miami, and it's different. You can literally get around in Miami and not speak any English. You're good. Yeah, right. You're good. So Miami's very it's different in that way. And I think crypto in Miami is going to be very special, and it's a cool city. And it's, like I said, it's the entry point into the rest of Latin America.
Really interesting. Yeah, this effect you had, I've seen this. I was in LA at that time where everyone who wanted to take a break went to Miami. This also happened from Colombia to Miami. I've seen a lot of people, whoever could flee to Miami, they did. Got the vaccine card and went to Miami for a break. let's see how this unfolds. I'm very interested. We're working with the University of Miami for the next edition of Web Congress to host it there, and it's going to be mostly Web3 and crypto. Although with all what's happening right now, FTX or all those things, we don't really know what the conversation is going to be next year. So what do you think? What's the state of crypto today? What's happening and where are we going next?
Yeah, no, I'm really passionate about this. And so the FTX situation, I don't know if anybody in here had been impacted by that. And if you are, I'm very sorry for that. It helps me, it makes me feel more like I'm doubling down. I don't know the Spanish term for that, but I feel more emboldened that our position was correct. Bitcoin, the concept of Bitcoin, where it all started, right, with cryptocurrency, was the main thing was it was about you can self-custody something. That was the key. That you didn't require a bank or somebody else in order to hold your value, your worth, your money. And that could just be digital dollars. It doesn't have to be. And by the way, be very careful in crypto. There's a lot of scams and Ponzi schemes, as we've seen. You can't trust anybody, it seems, nowadays. FTX, Jesus, like what's going on? But FTX is a custodial environment. Celsius was a custodial environment. BlockFi, custodial. Voyager, custodial. And so all that has happened in the last several years was a little bit of a casino environment where everyone felt like, you could only, driven by central bank policy, right? Because COVID stopped commerce. How many stores in Colombia could you not go to where a local, restaurant owner, they weren't able to even open their doors because of the, health policies? That happened in California and other places. So what governments did is they gave money. Well, that free money had a consequence. We're seeing that today. Fast forward, we have a lot of high inflation issues. So consumer behaviors didn't change. People were gambling in a sense. They were involved in casino activity, and they were excited, and it's fun, and it's cool. But they didn't actually change their behavior. And so to me, the way to do it is, when you hear Web3 is only a marketing gimmick until you actually build products where people hold their own funds or data. It doesn't have to be money. It can just be data, right? It's where the individual controls the money, the data, whatever the thing that has value, and they then connect that to something else. So, for example, you could go to the doctor, and it's so annoying. Every time you go to a new doctor, you got to fill out the form. I have the worst handwriting ever, and I hate filling these forms out. So imagine where you have a wallet that has nothing necessarily to do with your money, but it's just now I'm going to give permission to this doctor to have my information, and they're going to have all my information from my wallet. That could be a Web3 experience. If you have your own funds sitting in a wallet that you control, whatever happened to FTX and BlockFi and Voyager has no impact on you whatsoever. So the only thing, that's why kind of unbanked, what it really means is it's about you being your own bank. And I believe that that's the future, and that will have a lot of amazing impact. So if you want to, my father-in-law came from Iran, and he lived in Iran during the revolution. And when he did, he had to sell everything on the black market in order to go to the United States. And he sold everything 30 cents on the dollar and lost a lot. He had a great job. He had 1,000 employees that worked for him in a factory. He was an educated man with 3 master's degrees, way smarter than I'll ever be. But he had to lose everything and go to America with nothing. And we've seen that story time and time again, right? So, I had a nanny from Venezuela who was a lawyer in Venezuela, and she was working for $15 an hour in the United States, right? So imagine a world where you can have all of your wealth, you control it, and if you decide to move to India or the Bahamas or you stay in Colombia or the United States, it doesn't matter because you control your own destiny. And then you'll take that wallet that you control, only you control, and then you connect that to financial services that you're making decisions. So it requires financial literacy. It requires people to have to understand they can be hacked. There are risks. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
DeFi does not solve all problems, because if someone were to hack you, then you lose everything. And that has happened many, many, many times. It's devastating. So we need to find a balance between people who are comfortable to control their own wealth and have good operational, procedures, better products that can allow for that. And sometimes some people just shouldn't do it. It's not for them, and they need to maybe custody their funds with a bank because it's safer for them, and they don't have to worry about it. But to me, that DeFi really is the thing you should learn from this, and that you shouldn't trust centralized entities necessarily, because we've seen that time and time again. We keep getting, screwed.
You can say it, yeah. Wow, thank you very much. That was very insightful. I'm going to ask them a quick question. ¿Cuántos de ustedes escucharon de la historia de la plataforma de exchange de criptomoneda FTX y lo que acaba de pasar, todo el crash que acaba de pasar? Y obviamente se jala con ese crash otras startups, mencionó Voyager, mencionó BlockFi, que caen con ellas, ¿sí? Si no son estas, ¿cuántos de ustedes ponen dinero, aunque sea $5, $100 en alguna plataforma? Puede ser Binance, FTX, ya no cualquier otra. ¿Cuántos de ustedes? A ver, la mano alta, que tengan dinero. That's the people with money in some kind of exchange, similar to FTX. Okay, yeah. All right? Okay. So what you're saying is we shouldn't give that much trust or power to those big exchange?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and also there's many use cases, and I'm very excited about Latin America for so many reasons. One of the things, I don't know what's the inflation in Colombia right now?
La tasa de inflación.
How
12?
much?
It's going to get to 12%.
11 or 12? That's actually that's better than the United Kingdom, okay, just for the record, okay?
Oh, wow,
so
yeah.
Colombia is doing pretty good right now compared to, the United Kingdom. Goodness. And in the United States, it's been around 9%. So I'd say Colombia is doing fine compared, but it's not great. That the inflation across the world has been heavy, and we've seen that in Venezuela. We know Venezuela has a major impact. I'm sure everyone here has had somebody they know from Venezuela, right? Some impact somewhere. It has a real-world impact. What happened in Syria and how that had an impact into Europe. We know what happens in Argentina. Turkey has inflation of about 100%. So imagine, this is what I always tell people in the United States. So imagine a world where, and this is where I think crypto can come in, because crypto does not necessarily mean Bitcoin. When I say crypto, I also think of the digital dollar, or it could be the Swiss franc. It could, anything digital is what I think of. And so now you have the ability to keep your funds in a currency that you want it to be in, which is very powerful, because if you're talking to somebody who's got multiple master's degrees, they've got a great job, they're making a good income, but they live in Argentina, how do you solve that problem? Because the central bank has got a very high inflation rate, and it's very hard to solve that problem. But if you give the Argentinian the ability to keep their wealth in dollars, which many people in Latin America would like to be in, then you're solving a big problem. It's great for remittances, because now you can send money cross-border, quick and cheap. No more Western Union. It's better because you can literally peer-to-peer. There's no transaction cost for that. It's me to abuelita. That's very powerful, right? You connect that to a card. You spend that in real time. You can keep it in dollars, and when you swipe that card, then it converts into the local currency. So from my point of view, it has wide-ranging impact that goes way beyond this casino environment. It can change, I don't know how many people are in Latin America. It's like 1.3 billion people. I think it's...
All together?
Yeah.
Probably. Close to 1 billion, but I don't think
it's a
that
lot.
big. Yeah.
It's a lot of people, okay?
I mean, just Brazil is 200.
Well, Brazil's pretty
million,
big.
yeah,
Brazil's pretty big. So, I mean, the point is, it's going to be transformational, but I think of it as being transformational for many reasons that are different than just buying Bitcoin because it can only go up, right? Or some meme coin because it's funny. Remittance is going to be big. Staying in digital dollars or whatever currency you feel like you want to be in. Having self-custody, lowering costs for consumers. All of these things I think are going to come from money that's on a blockchain, which is what I call crypto.
That's pretty amazing. So wait a minute. So Unbanked is trying to solve this or work on this challenge, right?
Right.
Okay. How exactly? How does it
it's complicated.
Become physical?
So it's complicated. So we work with different banks to issue cards. And I think of the card, the Visa, MasterCard, American Express. So we're a program manager for all of them. So I think of the card as the last mile so that you can go anywhere you want. So if you're already using your card, your debit card today, like you would from bank, you know, Banco Davivienda, right? As an example, they're a big bank here. So you can use that pretty much anywhere, most anywhere. Well, our cards that we're going to be issuing, and we facilitate solutions not only for us, but also for other companies. So we do a white label business. Because, you know, let's be honest, my wife literally said, you know, good luck, gringo, before I walked up on the stage. You know, so the reality is that we partner with local companies that understand the communities, that understand how to talk to the, you know, local population. And Brazil is different than Colombia is different than Argentina. And we facilitate that so that if you can connect to crypto or digital money, digital dollars, whatever that might be, and we can issue cards from a bank, and we make those things work together. Because today, crypto does not work with banks, and you know they just don't work together. So we're really making the banking stuff, the bank accounts, the debit cards, interoperable with crypto, which is just a new kind of technology. And when you make those two things work together, you can solve a lot of consumer problems. But I just be careful. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of things, as we said, you can't trust apparently anyone. So you just got to be careful in decisions you make, but I think it will have a net positive, and that will change a lot of lives. Remittance, saving your wealth in you know, whatever currency you want. Some people might just prefer Bitcoin. Some people live on Bitcoin. That's great. You be you. If you wanted to be in Bitcoin, good for you. The point is, you'll have more options, and you can choose the decisions that are right for you. That might be different than what's right for somebody else.
So if I have multiple cryptos out there, I can use one card to just pay for stuff?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah?
So like, imagine a world where, you know, the banks are closed in the evenings, right? Banks are closed on the weekends.
Yeah, that's amazing.
If you think about, like, it's 2022, banks are actually closed. The actual time where you can send money is actually closed quite a bit. And even if I wanted to send money today, right now, and I go to a Colombian bank, or I use an app, and I want to send money, how long does it take Colombia? Is it next day? I mean, if I pay a wire, that could cost me a bit.
Let me tell you, so the regular thing would be you have to register the person and the account number for business bank account. So it takes 2 hours for it to show, and then I can send you. For
but how long does it take to receive? How long does it take to receive?
Then it's instant.
Oh, it's instant.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then
like
person
SEPA.
to person, it's pretty much instant. If it's one bank to a different bank, it might take, I don't know, 1 day. What day?
So that's what I mean. I'm talking about, like, so like if you're going from one bank to another bank,
Yeah.
And it depends. Like in the United States, you'll pay a wire fee. That could be $30.
Yeah.
Right? Or what's called ACH, which is an American transfer system. That could be next day. But you're paying the bank to send money, your money, to somebody else, when in a world with crypto in your own wallet, you won't have to. And that is billions and billions and billions of dollars that collectively people will save. And then banks, the reason they're so scared of crypto is because they make money on fees. That's their model, right? They're not a charity, right? So they're a business, and they want to get your money. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that, like, they got to make money. So they're going to charge you fees. But in a world with crypto, it's peer-to-peer. You don't have to pay those fees. It can be but there's downsides, but it can be very transformational.
All right. I'm seeing the counter into 0. Just one last thought. How long do you think it's going to take for Web3 crypto to really be just a normal thing, just a simple, non-complicated things for anyone to use forever?
It needs to be something that just works. And when we've reached that point, we need to build better products, and those products need to be intuitive. So it needs to be something like in an app where people don't even realize that they're dealing in crypto. In the same way that in Mexico, people will get a phone and they'll have a bank account in the phone, but they don't even know it. Carlos Slim owns 3 banks. He owns 3 telecoms. And when you get the phone, they give you the bank account. You don't even know you have a bank account. It's just transferring money via mobile, but it works. So they don't know how it works. It just works. Crypto needs to work that way. It needs to just be simple. It needs to operate like email, where any normal person can do it. And it should be better than the alternative. And until it is, I don't know that it'll really reach the mainstream. Because right now it's just like the picture of what it can do. We need to start delivering on making those things reality.
Oh, wow. I'm going to ask a question to the guys. What do you guys think? Did the gringo did good? Can the wife be proud? You see
Muchas
that?
gracias. Muchas gracias.
I absolutely understand everything. They're just saying me that I have time for one more question, and then we're going to jump to Bree, our friend Bree, who came from LA, and then Rappi. Have you heard about Rappi?
No.
Rappi. That's an interesting. That's the first unicorn, big unicorn here. There is multiple unicorns already, but big one. SoftBank and bunch of others, and it's a combination. I'm going to say from DoorDash and debit card, other payments, other things. Yeah, combined. It's pretty interesting. They're going to talk about AI, so they're not going to be talking about delivery service as a thing. I'm wondering for emerging markets and like Colombia and others where there's a lot of regulation. I mean, the financial system, the bank, the government has more say into those kinds of new money and financial innovations. The U.S. too, but I feel like in the U.S. there is more freedom to, at least by state, to innovate and sometimes be in the gray line of can you do this kind of business, and then it regulates itself, I guess. Or at least, I mean, we need this to happen, I guess, for the FTX situation not to happen.
Right.
What countries like Colombia should be doing today, maybe on the government or big corporation or big banks side to help merge with those new realities, which is we want to use crypto, we want to use all those new solutions, but without blockage or fees or things like that.
Well, I think they're trying. I think they are trying. I mean, like, there are government programs in most countries, not all probably, but I think in Colombia, they've got some really good stuff happening from an innovation perspective. Colombia has a very good international reputation. It speaks to the people and the culture, and the people who represent you in government. You live in a democracy and you vote for them and they represent you, right? So I'm not an expert on Colombia, but I can tell you that my understanding of Colombia is that they are trying. Now, how to do that is very complicated. How do you do it right? What's the proper amount of government involvement to spur along innovation? And that is a challenging question that I don't know that anybody necessarily has the right answer for. I think the main thing is governments have to understand that they can benefit from embracing innovation. It can be great for their local economy. That's great for jobs. That means they can build the future of, whatever. Let's say they were big in the metaverse. Who knows that the next big metaverse company is going to be based in Bogota or Medellin, right? Like, there's a lot of things that will impact if they do support it, but also can make government work better too for people. And so I would say on the banking side, they really need to embrace it, because if the banks don't embrace what's happening, then they will not be relevant anymore. People won't need to use banks in the future if banks don't embrace it. Banks have a role, but it needs to be about what the consumers want and tracking consumer behavior. Consumers want digital products. They don't need to go into the physical locations as much. People are interested in cryptocurrency to be used for real-time payments, remittances, or an investment. So they really need to be available to think through their policies and how they're going to approach what consumers want, or they're going to lose their consumers to other companies. And ultimately, by the way, I'll say, you being your own custodian, where you hold your own money, is the most powerful impact on competition in the marketplace. Because when banks understand that people have the ability to hold their own money and don't have to pay X amount of money per month to maintain their account, or X amount of money to send funds, it will force banks to change their business model, and they'll have to be more aware of what consumers want.
Wow, pretty amazing. This conversation is gonna create a very good insight when we cut and edit the video. But you know what's the favorite quote from you? You gotta be a little loco to be an entrepreneur. That's my favorite.
It's true, though.
Un aplauso. Thank you so much. All right, amazing. Daniel, amazing. Awesome, thank you.